And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the panel thing. If you haven't left, thanks for staying. If you're just joining us, hi, how you doing? Hope you're enjoying your time here at MonkeyCon. And this panel here is Constructing Your Cosplay. We are joined by one member of the Super Secure Support Cosplay group and Marcus from Keyblades. So real quick, why don't you guys give them a little bit of an intro on yourselves, and then we'll hop right into about constructing cosplays. We'll let you start right there. Yeah, just talk about yourself for a second. Let's let them know who you are.
My name is Captain America. I'm part of the Avengers, the leader of the Avengers group. When I'm not Captain America, my name is Jake, and I like to do, building swords and all my other cosplays. I cosplay as Captain, and I cosplay as Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII.
Hi everyone, my name is Marcus Hemsley. In the cosplay world, I'm known as Dragon the Keyblade Maker. I've been cosplaying for 10 years. I have been prop making for about 9 years. I specialize in 3D printed props, leaning more towards Keyblades, but I also specialize in sword, spears, and other weaponry such as that.
All right, so gentlemen, I guess the first question that we can start with is that when it comes to obviously cosplay, earlier we were chatting about picking out the cosplay and stuff like that. This is now really constructing the cosplay, and I want to put a little bit more focus on, I guess, the props itself, because anyone can make an easy, costume like that, maybe just run to the store if they don't want to spend too much money, but when it comes to props, there's a finer art to it sometimes. So why don't you tell us about how you got into actually building the physical props, like the stories that we see here on stage right here?
Believe it or not, I actually got into this from my previous job working with the DC Public Library. They had 3D printers in their computer lab, and I just immediately got hooked. I'd always been kind of a crafty person, but I never found a good way of expressing it. But once I saw this, it like a light bulb just went off in my head.
So it's just like, ooh, a 3D printer light bulb, essentially.
Basically. Once they showed me how to do it, I went from fiddling around with stuff to designing props that exceed 7 feet tall within a matter of months.
That's impressive. And how about you? How did you get into building props and stuff like that?
I got into building because I basically grew up in a garage. I'm a very big car person, so I don't have an engineering background, but I always was in the garage tinkering and building random stuff. And when I started doing cosplay, I saw these large weapons and these elaborate costumes, and I wanted to know how they did that. So I just studied, and I found some YouTube tutorials, and I taught myself how to work with foam, work with PVC, and do some LEDs, and it seems to have worked out.
And then, when you started building, obviously, a lot of people may look into some of the stuff that they have to get. You do 3D printing, but then I think I overheard you saying something about foam building and stuff like that. So I'll start with you, and then we'll get a little bit more in depth with 3D printing a little later. But what was it like? How much would you spend on basic construction of say a weapon like this right here?
The price can vary depending on how detailed you want to get. So for a basic sword like this, you can get the materials at Home Depot, and you can spend no more than $50 to $100 on the real basic stuff. If you want to get more complicated and do more detailed work, covering it with EVA foam, which should be a little more pricier, it gets pretty more pricey. So I think a large sheet of EVA foam can go for about $50 to $70. So that's on the price.
So, and the reason I bring that up is I used to LARP. I used to do a medieval LARP known as Darkon, where you dress up in medieval garb and you beat each other up with foam-handed weapons. So you can imagine I got beat up a lot. People were laughing, that's the right response to that. And one of the things that we had to do was I'm also a hockey player, so one of the things I would do is if I broke one of my hockey sticks, composite, we would repurpose that and then put the blue foam on it and all that other stuff. So it's always interesting, when I actually learned how to build spears and axes and swords for art purposes, and then seeing stuff like this, it's always a very interesting thing to go okay, I got from this that has a sock on it as a cover to what you do. What type of foam do you use for when you build those weapons?
So this weapon here is made of insulation foam. Like I said, you can get it at Home Depot. It's only about 1.5 inches thick. It's covered with 2mm EVA foam for a little bit of strength and some detail. And it has a 2-inch PVC pipe through the center, and it separates out the guard. So all that stuff is pretty readily available. A little bit of glue, you can make a lot of something.
So if you guys want, just go head over to Home Depot and just start building your own weapons like right now. It's cost effective. If anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. I'll come run to you and you can ask the questions of what you want to have for these guys here. For 3D printing, like that's just more plastic based, correct? Like what type of material does that? I've never worked with 3D printing, so I legitimately don't know. So what's that? What's the type of material like for you on that?
Traditionally, I stick to a more consumer-friendly plastic called PLA. It's biodegradable. Basically, it's like corn. It's just a corn turned into plastic. Very easy to use. Very easy to access. You can buy it at most places, Walmart, Micro Center, places like that. 3D printing can get into much more expensive stuff. I don't know if you've ever heard of a company called Koenigsegg, the car company. Nope. Well,
I'm not a car guy.
Well, they're a hypercar company. A lot of their car frames they 3D print in carbon fiber. They've used a system known as zero-G printing, where they print basically from the center out. Yeah, mine isn't that complicated. Mine is very entry-level, very basic. You can buy the printers I use, like I said, at Walmart, Macro Center, stuff like that. You know, PLA will run you maybe about $15 to $30 a reel, depending on what you get, and they're usually coming like a 1 pound reel.
And what's it like for 3D printing? Like, can you 3D print it in color, or is that something you add afterwards?
You can 3D print it in color. They offer various colors, various textures for it. Like, basic printing will be like a plastic. They also have what is called silk PLA, which is what comes out as a smoother texture. It prints slightly differently than the standard PLA. They also have stuff like wood and metals and like a carbon fiber that can be printed in different ways and come out in different textures.
How much can that stuff run you?
If you get like actual carbon fiber filament, you're probably looking at maybe $500 a reel. If you get something like PLA with carbon fiber, like accents to it, or carbon fiber like chunk pieces in it, you may be looking at $30-$40.
So it kind of matters. So like maybe painting it would probably be an easier way to go or something like that, if you want to keep the cost down.
Yeah, it'd be easier, and it can use you a little more detail of what you can do with printing stuff. So
after printing, like, what's some of the stuff? What's some of the post printing? What's some of the key work you have to do?
Some of the key stuff is that when you're done printing, you'll have to take off what are called supports. It's extra parts of the print that are designed to make sure that nothing gets sloppy during the print. You have to break those off, you have to smooth everything down, sand everything down, fill in if there's any extra gaps, then prep it for painting, and then add any extra detail you want to add later to it.
After printing, how much do you think it is? How much time do you think you spend on the post-printing production?
It varies from item to item. Something smaller like a pendant or medallion, maybe 10 to 30 minutes on post-printing prep. For something like this sword, I'm maybe looking at maybe 3-4 hours worth of post-prep, then maybe another 2 days worth of painting.
That's a lot of work. Now, for you work with more foam-based. What's it like for you? Because obviously he just puts something in a computer and it kind of prints it out for you. You have to do more mapping out and stuff like that. What's your standard process like when you see the weapon that you're going to build and stuff like that? Like, what's your process for doing your builds?
It varies. I'm a graphic designer by trade, so I use Adobe Suite. I use Illustrator to make my schematics, and I'll measure everything out that I need to do. You don't have to do that. Some people just wing it, which works really well. But I like to know what I'm cutting, and how big it's going to be. And once that is all done, once you have everything built, there's a couple things you need to do to the foam to get the details of the paint to come out. So you have to heat seal the foam with either a blow dryer or a heat gun to get it to be kind of stiff so the paint will stick. And then you have to seal it with a primer, and then you can paint it. So it's not as easy as building. There's a couple more things you have to do.
Yeah, I remember from doing DarkCon, like, it could take a few hours just to cut out your foam and, all that other stuff. You gotta take breaks.
You gotta take some breaks. I'm not much for crunching. If you're familiar with con crunching, like people who stay until 5 a.m. before an event, I don't like doing it. I'll start about at least a month or 2 months in advance, and I'll chip away at it every night, a couple hours here and there. I let the paint dry, which is really important, and then it ends up being pretty good.
And then I see here you actually have lights in here, and I'm not sure if people can see it on the other side. They can. Good. What's it like doing electrical work in a prop weapon like that?
So I'll be real. These lights are incredibly simple. They are just string LEDs that you can buy at Home Depot. But if you want to program your own lights, I have friends that do that, and you have to get all of our programs. You have to learn Google coding, which you can mostly find on Google. It's not that challenging, but to get it exactly right can be a challenge. It's definitely a little process. You have to solder all your LEDs together, you have to program everything, you have to code. And for me, that was just, this is my first build, so that was a little much for me. But it's definitely doable.
And because like we've obviously seen people like League of Legends is one of them, where they they'll have a bow like light up, and they'll be like having all these different light like visuals and stuff like that. Like, have you tried diving into that a little bit, or are you just still kind of like experimenting at this point right now with that?
With programming LEDs?
Yeah, like programming.
I think my next build, I'm planning to do a xenomorph from the Aliens movie. I think I might try to do some green LEDs somewhere and program them myself and do all kinds of crazy stuff.
You're not going to take Mjolnir and have it like have a little light.
If I have time, I'll rebuild Mjolnir to be one of those translucent phones, and you can see all the lightning and everything you do with. That would be really great.
Anyone here have any questions? I'm trying. All right, you. Thank you for giving me a break for trying to ask all these questions.
Do you find that you have like structural issues when you're printing with PLA? Because I found that I always have like kind of layering issues. Does it get better when you use it, or is it? I find that I have structural issues when I print with PLA. If I like make it too tall, it'll start kind of peeling apart and breaking. Even if does it get better if you coat it, or is it you have to put some structure in the middle of it to make it better?
I always put structure in. I always put like a support inside my props just for extra rigidity. PLA, even though it's very accessible, it's actually pretty sturdy. It's very susceptible to heat. So it's easier to warp in hotter temperatures, say during the summertime, say if you're riding in a car for a long period of time, if you don't have the AC running, it is prone to warping a lot easier. Like I said, the best way to solve that is to have some kind of structure, a dowel rod, a PVC pipe, something in the middle of it to give it that sense of rigidity. Once you get done with that, that basically solves that issue itself.
It's pretty much just give it a nice support system. As I awkwardly look at my watch to make sure I'm on time. I gotta stay on time, everyone. I got a lot of these, and I run out of questions. But what's your most challenging prop to make? Both of you. Most challenging prop.
Probably my most challenging prop as of right now. Well, it's actually two. I was working on a design for a full-size Fenrir from Second Kingdom Hearts. After design and scaling and everything, that stands probably about 6.5 feet tall.
And those Keyblades are no joke.
No, they're not. A lot of them are very detailed. A lot of them have a lot of intricacies to them. Fenrir was especially difficult because it's not like a traditional Keyblade that you see. It's not just like, oh, I can just put a blade here, put a little on top of it, and it's called a Keyblade. No, it's more like
It's not like the normal Keyblade.
yeah, it's like a car key almost. And it can get a little tricky because you have to find some, you kind of have to match the spacing a little bit. And the handle is it's a lot more intricate than what people believe it is. The other one was the Sephiroth's Muramasa blade. And that one is actually a little over 7 feet tall after getting up putting it together. The trick with that one was because it's so long, there's a lot of structural concerns with it. You know, you put it out and it just starts flopping around like a, you know.
Yeah, and I know with like larger weapons, you have to worry about like, you know, weight distribution, stuff like that. And so I'll go, what's the most difficult prompt that you've actually made?
Well, this is the first prompt I made for myself, and when you mentioned weight distribution, this one is not well balanced. I wasn't really thinking of that when I built it, which is why I want to try and rebuild it. It's only about 7 pounds, but it's mostly in the front. So holding it all day at conventions is not the most fun thing.
It can be very tiring.
It can be very tiring. Your neck starts to hurt a lot.
So the reason I bring up most difficult is hilariously, because I was doing the Darkon stuff and I was building all these weapons, my friends came up to me and said, "Can you build me Ichigo's sword?" Let's just put it like this way. Don't use a PVC pipe. Don't use the blue camping foam. He still loved it, he paid me for it. But that thing was 6 feet tall and about 30 pounds. And he loved it. Don't do what I did. I don't know if that thing's still in commission or anything, but don't do it. Now, that was a good challenge, though.
I like muscles pop out when you hold it to that. It looks good in photos.
No, yeah, it was a workout for me. I remember he came to me and he picked it up for me and he was like, "Oh my God, this thing's heavy. I'm gonna love this." Literally did Otakon. Text message, "Mike, I hate you." But you know, that's why I bring that up, because it's like, you know, like weight distribution, stuff like that. Like, how about for you for weight distribution, stuff like that? Because you talk about supporting your, you know, when you do the 3D printing. Like, have you had a weapon that's had that difficulty where you actually had to like rethink, okay, I'm going to remake it, but how do I redistribute the weight so it's not a problem?
Yes, and actually it's for the same blade. I've made a 3D printed Buster Sword that weighed maybe 5.5 to 6 pounds after everything, after paint, supports, all that stuff put together. But because of the design and the shape of the blade, everything is in the blade, so it feels like you're carrying around a 40-pound sword. When in actuality, it weighs less than a gallon of milk.
It's crazy. I mean, I also built a scythe, which was PVC with the scythe part was wood, but then we put foam padding over it for safety purposes. I gave that to a girl. I built that for a girl who was like 5 feet tall, and that thing was also 6 feet tall. She loved it too, and I made it where, I mean, the headpiece was the heaviest part, and there's nothing you can do to distribute the weight on that thing. But luckily for transport, because like the Ichigo sword, or for the Buster sword, when you transport it, you have to transport it like that. But at least what I did to make her life easier was I made it where the staff was a 2-piece. Oh, that is a 2-piece?
This one is 2-piece. It separates at the guard, so it's not as short as it could be. You know, you still have to store the blade somewhere, but it's not as long as it.
But at least when you transport, like in a car or something, it's a little easier to do.
A lot easier.
Unfortunately, my Buster Sword didn't detach into 2 pieces. It was just the Buster Sword.
And I frequent cons with a lot of people that do Monster Hunter, and they have the really big sword builds. I know somebody that made a scythe, and it was only about 6 pounds, but it was solid foam, and it feels like it's 30 pounds, and it's just like...
Yeah, it's interesting how you don't factor any of that in sometimes. It's like, you build like, I mean, obviously, like when you build like a quick little, like what we call a white sword for medieval LARPing, it's this little thing that's about maybe the length of this, but it's like maybe like 2 pounds at the most. but you're also using like a sock or a stocking to like cover the foam and stuff like that, because that's what you gotta do. You're not allowed to put paint on or anything. So it's like, you go from one extreme to another extreme. It's like, it really opens your eyes on how you construct things and how you have to maybe change things down the road. For the record, do not ask me to build anything for you. I don't do it anymore. I'm sorry. Ask these guys, they're better.
I will say one great thing about 3D printing is you can adjust the weight of the item. Because when you actually send it to me printed, you can adjust how dense you want it to be. Because most of the props I make are have about 5% infill, which means it's almost completely hollow. I keep it that way for,
For the weight?
Yeah, for usability. Because I know people who buy this stuff are going to do photo shoots, they're going to do conventions, they're going to be carrying these things around for 5, 6, 8 hours a day.
They don't want to feel like their arm is falling off.
Exactly. Now, like I said, for bigger props, I do the best I can, but it's still going to feel heavy just because of the sheer size of it. Something like this, it might weigh 1.5 pounds. I've had people grab some of these displays off my time and start swinging it around like an idiot, having a grand old time with it.
Fantastic. So, real quick, we're kind of coming near the end. Where can the people find you on social media? Obviously, you have a table here that people can come ask you questions at. You'll be at a table that people can ask you questions at. Real quick, where can the people find you on social media? Because this is how I end every day.
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube under either Dragon the Keyblade Maker, my cosplayer name, or under Keyblades and Keydaggers for my shop name.
And then your table is literally right over there behind the tarot card reader.
Yeah.
So he is right there. Where can they find you on social media?
I'm with the superhero support group in the hallway, and you can find me on Instagram at americas.ask.cosplay.
Sir, you have an amazing national iconic boot tag.
Thank you.
I'm trying to keep it PG. So with that, thank you guys so much for doing this. Thank you for coming to this. In a few minutes, we're going to be doing our next panel, which is creative writing. Thank you guys.